In this video, we're going to see an introduction to works of art in the Stanley Museum of Art's collections that were made by indigenous artists of the northwest coast of North America, specifically in the areas of the U.S. state of Washington and the Canadian province of British Columbia. On this map, I've placed a star over Iowa and a box around the geographic area we're going to be talking about. So what does it mean to be an indigenous artist? Well, an indigenous artist is a person who identifies with the history and culture of a Native American or First Nations tribe, nation, or people, and who actively participates in the cultural and political life of these groups. Each work of art we're going to talk about today is considered contemporary. In other words, it's the art of today, of right now. And if we're looking at the art of today, it stands to reason that some of the artists whose work we'll see on screen could be at work in their studios right as you're watching the video. That's pretty cool, right? Randy Stiglitz, the artist who made the mask that we see on screen, is a great example of a contemporary First Nations artist. He identifies as Coast Salish and Cree and currently lives and works in Vancouver, British Columbia. It is important to take time to explain what contemporary art is and to situate the geography of where these artworks come from so that you can understand that indigenous peoples in North America are part of living cultures that exist in our present time. Native Americans and First Nations artists in the US and Canada are rightfully demanding recognition from museums, the art world, universities, and governments. Preston Singletary, a Tlingit Native American artist, whose glass work is seen on screen, is one of many artists who are pushing this movement forward. Let's take a moment to look a little bit closer at Preston Singletary's Soul Catcher. And in doing so, we can understand how these videos are going to work. I'm going to spend a fair amount of time in each video describing the work of art. So I might mention with this work that there are a number of different lines of varying thicknesses, from very thick in some places to very thin in others. I might point out some of the oval shapes, some of the round shapes, and I'm doing all of this because each of us are different people who see the world uniquely. And when we have a common set of ideas and details to draw from, we can better understand the work of art that we're looking at. For instance, look at these shapes right in the middle that I've just put boxes around. Some of you might have immediately recognized these densely packed areas of thick and thin lines to represent eyes. But others of you might not have recognized these complex formline designs as eyes. Let's take a minute to talk about Formline. Formline is a system of design that is used by artists in the Northwest Coast. And artists who practice Formline build images out of interlocking lines of varying thicknesses. And looking again at the Soul Catcher, we see thick lines and thin lines layered together in those eye areas. We also see ovals and we see U-forms at the center, which are a traditional Formline design element. And if we look down at this bowl made by the Canadian artist collective BOMA, we see another great example of formline elements in the red and black color scheme. We see thick lines and thin lines of black and red. We see them interlocking, and we see the way that their interlocking creates different shapes and encloses empty, non-painted space to further give detail to the design. And in this case, the design is meant to represent a bear with large oval-shaped eyes and sharp teeth. I will end each video by sharing some questions for you to think about. For example, if we were at the end of a video about this carved and painted paddle made by the Tlingit artist Timber Vavalis from Alaska, I might ask you a question like, what shapes do you recognize in the design? Or, is there an animal being represented here? Why might the artist be showing us that animal? I'm asking these questions at the end of each video to encourage you to discuss the works of art with your classmates, your family, or your friends as you encounter these works of art that may be new to you.